Welcome to the Transform Sales Podcast, where forward-thinking business leaders come to share their experiences and ideas, learn from each other, and amplify their results together. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Transform Sales Podcast Sales Software Review Series. Today, I have the pleasure of having on the show Nick Caruso, CRO and co-founder of KnowledgeNet.ai. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing terrific, Tony. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, thank you for joining us. So our show today, we'll be talking about KnowledgeNet for sales teams. And as you all know, we like to do demos for specific use cases for the software so that you could be more informed before you decide to take a demo on the software options that are available for RevOps. And so KnowledgeNet for sales teams. Nick, let's start off with the first question just to set things up. What alternatives were KnowledgeNet users using for as sales teams? So what kind of alternatives were sales team users of KnowledgeNet using before they bought KnowledgeNet?
Yeah, so before I'll answer that question, but Tony, for yourself, how many years have you been in sales? Let me just start with that.
All right, you're going to make me date myself, Nick. So let me see. I've been in sales, I would say, really, since my first job ever was 1996. If I really think about it, that's how long I've been in sales. So what would that make it? 4, then 24, 28 years.
28 years. Excellent. And in sales, do you think leveraging the relationships that you have and are important to help you close deals, find new opportunities? Do you think that's fair to say?
100% leveraging relationships. And if we get specific, I'd say leveraging insights about the people that I'm trying to sell to, right? What are their needs? What are their challenges? What are their desires? And then kind of incorporating that into our conversations is really helpful.
That's great. So, and what tools have you used to address that to help you?
You know, it's funny that you asked that because I was thinking the other day, one difference in my sales experience is that I spent the majority of my sales career, the majority of those 28 years, in a more field-based environment, right? Where I'm actually meeting with the people in person and sometimes having to collect that information in the conversation real time. So a lot of times the tools that I would use were the CRMs where I keep notes on my multiple interactions. And then when I came over to CloudTask, then I started having more exposure to more of the inside sales side of things where you might be using other tools to get to know them. So I would use stuff like Sales Navigator, Apollo maybe for collecting data and some other tools that might give us just demographic information about someone. I would say social media and LinkedIn profile activity. It's been the largest source of information about folks from an inside sales capacity.
No, that's great. And so you used Sales Navigator, Apollo, social media, some of those tools. So Apollo to get external information about the person, like where they worked at, et cetera. I think Apollo, and I use Apollo too, it's a great tool. But a lot of the Apollo data is coming from LinkedIn. So going to LinkedIn, et cetera. And how effectively would you think that you're leveraging your team's network? So your CEOs, your other executives in the company, maybe former people that were in the company, how are you leveraging their connections, their interactions?
So yeah, a good question. We actually do. The way we leverage them, how effectively, I can't say. I look forward to kind of getting your analysis on that or rating on that. But one of the things that we do in order to leverage that is disseminate our content through the different profiles as well. So like we're recording this video right now, and not only will we have it live in one place, but we'll also disseminate the information through the contacts of our different team members. But from the standpoint of pulling insights in from each of those groups, I can't say that we do an awesome job of that. And the last thing I'll say on that is that one of the challenges I feel in developing your team is we would be able to see that information in the CRM if we're appropriately putting those people in a bucket and collecting notes about those people and leveraging our people to put those notes into CRM. But as we all know, there tend to be some gaps in team members utilizing the CRM appropriately for various reasons. And that's where we normally run into a challenge.
Yep. No, I think you're, and that's spot on, right? Like I've been in sales for about as long as you have, maybe even longer. And I almost think the best salespeople are usually the worst people at updating CRM. And so your best people's knowledge, relationships, connections, etc., are not being fully leveraged within your organization. So my background, I actually came from the U.S. intelligence community. You and I, before we started this, you said, you came from the D.C. area. You said your family comes from the military background. I also came from I worked in the military. I came from the intel space, and we were really big in what was called linked analysis. So connecting the dots, and you think about when you watch the movies and you see like the FBI and they're drawing the lines and trying to find the bad guy, right?
100%.
A lot of that technology about connecting all those dots applies also to the sales world, right? Like if you're trying to break into an account, one is, how do you find that account, right? When you think, like who is, in the case of the bad guys, it was, okay, we're trying to find terrorists, right? But in the case of the sales world, it's called ideal customer profile. It's called buyer persona.
Right.
But it's leveraging, okay, now that you know who you want to go after, how are you going to get there?
Right.
And that's all around link analysis. And so that's a lot of what KnowledgeNet is all about. So what we do is we connect the dots to help you leverage the relationships, the knowledge, all that information within your organization to help you better find new customers, new prospects, and close on those accounts. Okay. So when you're asking what's on the term, what alternatives were your customers using, there's no one product out there that's an alternative to ours. But what we do replace is we do replace a Zoom Info as an example, where we don't replace Apollo, but we complement what you're doing in Apollo. A lot of our customers are just using us instead of sales LinkedIn Navigator, because they're finding that our tool, and we'll demo this tool in a minute here, but those would be some of the tools that we either integrate with or we help reduce. So you definitely don't need a Zoom Info, and a lot of customers are getting away from Sales Navigator.
Got it. So the
Navigator, I should say, sorry.
The Navigator. And it sounds like the challenge then that we're solving here is with KnowledgeNet as well, is what we just talked about, right? That how do you make sure that the information from your customers, that you're leveraging the information that your people have about your potential customers or existing customers in the maximum way. And by automating it, you don't have to rely on them doing it manually, which just increases the probability that you get that information where you could best use it.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think I saw on your LinkedIn profile, you work with some sales automation tools, like I don't know if that's true, but like just automating processes. Yes. So we are both a product and a service where people can use our product, and we'll show it to you today, where you can use our product and so forth. But a lot of customers come to us and say, that's great. I can click, I can get insights and so forth. But at the end of the day, I'm just looking for who are my next 1,000 customers I should go after. And so we also provide that as a service offering, but we leverage your network. So you connect your LinkedIn profile into our system, you connect all of your emails, your meetings, and our brain gets really smart in understanding all of your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, who are your existing customers? Who are your competitors? Sometimes customers have, thousands of customers, right? So how do you effectively leverage, where are they now? They were your customers a year ago. They moved on, but they loved using your product when they were. So where are they now? How do you leverage those relationships?
And you know what? Building on that, I just want to say one more thing that resonates with me here as we think about what I'm hearing that KnowledgeNet does. And there was a Harvard Business Review issue years ago that looked into what were some of the ideas from management science that have stood the test of time. And number one, most important of them, where everything starts, is customer insights, which, by the way, we say customer insights, but that doesn't mean your customers. It just means your market, that market that you're targeting, whether they're your customers yet or they're still your prospects, right, is understanding what their needs are. We all talk about what are their pain points, where are their needs, where are their desires, and having that in one place so you could design strategies to get the right message to the right person at the right time, to use something that's very well known, right? So it sounds like KnowledgeNet is definitely trying to be a source of that, a place where you can go ahead and get all those customer insights in one place so that your team can make more strategic decisions and have more effective conversations with people during the buyer lifecycle. So interesting, like that. All right, then with no further ado, let's go ahead and demo some of these features. So would you share your screen, Nick? And we will go into some of these features of KnowledgeNet that help take the pain or overcome the challenge of sales reps, not updating the CRM with that valuable customer insight data that your organization needs so much.
Okay, that's great. So you can see my screen?
Yeah. Who's that guy? Who's that guy? He looks familiar.
So Tony, I'm just going to show you a small feature of our product. We have a large enterprise capability, but to give a quick 5-10 minute demo, I'm just going to go over a fraction of it, just kind of give you some insights. So I'm on LinkedIn right now. Am I directly connected to you? This, as I always like to say, the short answer is no. We're second degree connected. So we have some mutual connections, but I'm not directly connected to you, right? Mm-hmm. So if I wanted to get some insights on it, I can see your birthday. I don't have your email address. I can see some of our mutual connections, and that's about it.
Yep.
Okay. How do I know if anybody in my company has ever interacted with you? Is there a way to do that right now on LinkedIn?
Can't see it right now on LinkedIn. I have seen something, but not from this view where it indicates that somebody made a comment, or maybe, you've got the mutual connection showing there, but I can't even recall an easy way to quickly know whether someone's been reaching out, for example.
Right. Now, even if you're in a small organization or a large organization, that's some pretty critical value there, right? So if I'm trying to reach out to you, Tony, and you fit my ideal customer profile, my buyer persona, you said you should do a lot of research before engaging with your clients, right? That's probably one of the first critical steps. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up our Chrome extension. And I assume most of the people that are listening to this are probably familiar with Chrome extensions, but they're just little add-ons on top of Chrome or Microsoft Edge. And what it's going to do here for me is it's going to do a couple of it's going to surface all of those insights that you would ask for. And actually, you kind of without even knowing it, you tease that for me right away. So the first thing it did is it just exposed your email address. And that alone is pretty cool. There's a lot of Chrome extensions out there that do that, but that's pretty cool, right? But once we have that email address, what's really important for me to know is, oh, look, Nick, you emailed Tony on August 29th and you had a meeting with him on August 29th, right? Now that's pretty obvious because that's, we're interacting right now. But think about if I didn't know you, but it circuits to me that someone on my team has been interacting with you, or my CEO has been interacting with you, and so forth. In fact, if I scroll down further, I can see additional insights as to who in my team has had some interactions with you. And prior to this meeting, there's been some email exchanges going back and forth. People have been copied on it. But what it's doing is it's connecting the dots of understanding who in my immediate network has had some interactions with you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
100%. And you know what it's making me think of is I just was, even today in our HubSpot, as an example, I mentioned the CRM. Literally, I was looking at it. I'm like, I can't tell, why were these people, what are they sending? I'm in a conversation right now, but the nature even of automation, sometimes with all these things shooting off at different times, there could be touches that you might not even be aware of these days, is my point. You might have to fix some things in your automations to make them feel more fluid. Being able to see who is reaching out to the person you're reaching out to gives you an opportunity to not look misaligned and disjointed as far as that experience is for the buyer, right?
Whether this is for customer support roles, customer success, account management, so many times I'm so busy, I have sometimes 2 or 3 minutes before I go into a meeting, and it's just so invaluable to pull something up, get some quick insights, and understanding those interactions.
Definitely.
What our platform also does is behind the scenes, it's always connecting the dots regarding any LinkedIn activity between me, anybody at my company, any email with anybody at my company, meetings, etc. So this is a more detailed view, but what this is sharing with me is, again, LinkedIn did not tell me that I'm directly connected to you, but KnowledgeNet is surfacing to me the fact that I'm connected to you. My CEO has had interactions. And these are the top 4, recommended paths of ways to connect to you. And some of them are more direct because we're surfacing. Like my marketing person has had some emails and meetings, interactions with you, Tony. So here in the marketing side, and some of them are more subtle. So it's picking up the fact that I know this individual called Chris Berger pretty well, and you and Chris had some overlapping times of employment at the same time at GE. GE, massive company, but there's a chance that there's that connection path, et cetera. So we surface that knowledge about different ways and of insights, so that when I do connect to you, I can, if I didn't know you and we didn't have a direct connection path, I can reference the fact that, oh, I see that you've had some meetings with Thierry, or I could reach out to Thierry ahead of time and so forth.
Right. Nice. And you know what? Just to mention, one of the things interesting as you pulled up the Google extension, the first thing that came to mind for me, I'm sure some other people might be thinking it as they look, was Crystal Nose also. However, I could see that this has got a Crystal Nose on steroids type of effect, right? Because I see there the personality profile is there. Crystal Nose focuses heavily on that kind of thing. And now it's just like I got that information that I'd be used to seeing in like a Crystal Nose or a similar application. Plus, I've got these other things that make it easier for me to understand how other members of my team might be connecting with the person that I want to speak to, or in my network, other members of my network, right? So not even just team, but network, like you mentioned.
No, you're absolutely right. So we look at KnowledgeNet as a integration platform for a lot of different systems. So I've been a sales professional, again, for 20 plus years. I love Crystal Nose, but I don't, imagine integrating Crystal Nose with Apollo as an example, right? With all these different extensions into one platform, and that's what we provided. So we're a reseller of Crystal Nose, we're a reseller of Apollo. We've integrated all those different datas into our platform, and then leverage relationship intelligence on top of that. So to your point, if I'm surfacing information about you, Tony, I can pull up information. I got information from Crystal Nose about you. I got your work history. I got my connection paths. Who in my company has ever interfaced with you before, etc. And then recently, in the last couple of years, I've started using ChatGPT a lot. Have you been using ChatGPT a lot?
A lot.
So from here, we also fully integrated ChatGPT into our platform. So you have the ability to say, within our platform, help me write an email to Tony, and leverage the information from Crystal Nose, every public information about you that we got from Apollo or from LinkedIn. Plus integrating that all into ChatGPT, integrating that as well with what is your sales methodology? Is it Spin or MedPick or whatever?
Yes.
And we're making this so much easier for me. And I can just say this, thank Tony for meeting with me on the podcast, right? And it can, again, if you're familiar with ChatGPT, we have all that capability built into a single platform.
So let me ask you this question. LinkedIn is heavy focus for KnowledgeNet. Are you all able to plug into any of the other social media platforms at this time?
So our plugin here, and let me just go over that in just a second. So let's get straight to answers. From here, so for me as a sales rep, I'm terrible at updating my CRM.
Yes.
Right. But wouldn't it be just incredibly easy from here just to go into any of my CRMs that I have connected, and just make it really easy to update that CRM? Just to, right now you're already in our CRM, that's going to update some information, etc., and then just hit save. So just making it really, really easy to also interface with your CRM, pull up additional emails and so forth. So this widget here, which we call our knowledge widget, it can lives wherever you as a sales rep lives. So it can live in just any website. So I'm in a website here, and I pull up that same widget, and now it's going to surface me information about CloudTask. I can be in my Outlook and open up the same widget and surface the same information wherever I am. So in this case, I pulled up CloudTask. It pulled up information saying, okay, well, Nick, your number one connection to CloudTask is through Tony. No surprise, because KnowledgeNet knows that we just had a meeting and some email exchanges. Mm-hmm. And then when I was preparing for this meeting, I thought this was interesting. I met with Steve Burton a few months ago, and KnowledgeNet exposed to me that Steve Burton's connected through CloudTask.
Nice.
So I know. Do you know Steve?
Yep, definitely know Steve from Point Co, the Point Company. Shout out to the Point Company.
Yep. So that's a classic example of connecting the dots. And then KnowledgeNet also exposed to me that someone from your company visited our website 2 weeks ago. So we integrate with other external tools like Leadlander, if you're familiar with Leadlander, or Leadfeeder. These are website tracking tools. But again, that data lives in silos. So what about surfacing that data in one interface? And then from here, we can connect to Apollo. So if I want to find contacts at CloudTask, I can interface with Apollo to quickly just find those individuals that are that work at CloudTask. And that's impressive. I do is build up and go into our full application to really take advantage of a much deeper user experience.
Let's stay here in the full application. In fact, I was just going to mention that actually being able to go. It reminds me of. So we're talking about KnowledgeNet for sales teams, and we know that there are different roles on a sales team. If you got, we used to have what we called business development analyst or market intelligence analyst that in this case, right, might be responsible for the list building, going out, finding information about the company and the contacts at the company so that we could expand our prospect list as an example. And boom, I can see how this actually just makes that process so much easier when you're thinking about just the one click of adding information to the CRM. Wow, that means that your team, your person can focus on going to the next site, going to the next leg of research, rather than jumping between different tools and still populating that tool with information, which is very efficient. Then going on to the SDR part where they might do the initial outreach. Now that person's got the information about the company, the information about the contacts, some other information and some insights to have a more personalized outreach experience, whether they send a cold email, a message through LinkedIn, or call them. So I could immediately see how that could make that whole process more efficient. And then we got the handoff to the AE or someone that might be actually doing the sale. And the fact that all of this information, all knowledge that is facilitated on this journey, putting all this information in the CRM, means that AE should be able to have a more relevant conversation with the person they're talking to. So it's interesting looking at it through this lens. So now that we're in the back end, why don't we look at it from the standpoint of how people really get this thing set up or operate on the inside of it?
Yep. So it's a couple of quick things. So we're really big on leveraging your network and your relationships. So it's very easy to connect your email into our platform. Either an administrator can do it or you can do it. So if you're familiar with some of the platforms where it's a single sign-on, you click in, you just say go. And then much like a lot of Chrome extensions in LinkedIn, you just install the Chrome extension, you go to LinkedIn, and then you can take advantage of all of our capabilities in LinkedIn. And I didn't surface into all of it, but a lot of what we do is all about focusing on top of funnel. We want to help you grow that top of funnel. So I showed you a lot of the underlying works capability. But within LinkedIn, we can help you fully leverage your own LinkedIn network, your colleagues' LinkedIn network and their relationships. And then we also have some tools that I jokingly call our CIA tools, where you can harness other people's LinkedIn network. You can harness people who are joining a webinar or an event. Who are all the people that are joining that event? Maybe my competitor's event. I want to harness all of those people. So we have all these LinkedIn type of extraction capabilities. And then I know we're kind of going along, but I know you were, from a podcast style perspective, you were into sales automation, right?
Yes.
So do you use like Zapier or Make.com workflows and things like that?
Yes, we use that Zapier, and obviously in our automation tools, I use some different automation tools. Let's say like high level, HubSpot. Obviously, we could build workflows. Anything that's sales and marketing automation is typically giving you that workflow opportunity, right?
So I'm obviously a geek at heart here. So when I was looking at your profile before this, and I saw that you were into sales automation and things like that, I'm really into recently, or we are into like make.com, which is like Zapier,
Okay.
where you can do a variety of different things. You can say, listen for a webhook, do a bunch of lookups. So maybe hit Apollo to do some additional lookups, take some data into ChatGPT to for every individual in a contact list, create unique email outreaches or unique email messages, and then send that to a follow-on workflow. So you know, if you're familiar with Zapier and make.com, these type of workflows, what I love about doing that is that within our tool, let's say I found the individuals from here, I can go ahead and export these people and export them into either an out of the box solution like into Salesforce or HubSpot or Outreach or whatever, but I can also export them into a Zapier or make.com workflow. That gets incredibly powerful from that perspective to automate those sequences. So, and that's where we provide. Some of our customers don't have the technical expertise to create, and that's, I think you may have built a whole business around it, but there's a whole cottage industry of companies out there that are helping companies, automate these, like a multi-step LinkedIn and email sequence with customized outreach and things like that. And I think the latest thing now is even doing AI phone calling, right? So but anyway, going back to my own product, we're all about being that glue in the middle, stitching Crystal Nose and Apollo, getting rid of your need for LinkedIn Sales Navigator, reducing the need for Zoom Info, but then allowing you to find the people you want to find those relationships, and then kick them off to the next step in your best of breed solutions.
And that's actually, so as I have up here, right, the task and deliverables or people involved in getting set up the software, two things come to mind, right? One is KnowledgeNet obviously provides internal resources from their team to help you get your workflow set up, if you will, which is really right. We're automating what you're doing manually every day, or the things that you want to do manually every day and make sure get done. The automation is just helping you avoid the human error, right? But the challenge in automation is that you have to start thinking in ones and zeros. It's a totally different mindset from, when I was at GE doing sales, the things that we did, I could remember what we did, but then taking what I was doing manually and translating that into ones and zeros so I could automate it. So breaking it down to a process that feels like it could be repetitive is typically a challenge. And I'd say it's a challenge for anybody today. Like for me, it's part of my development right now, every day, right? So I'm geeking out on that and I can appreciate it. But it's been 8 years that I could say I've been focusing on this idea of taking even my Lean Six Sigma experience and being like, I need to be able to apply it to sales and marketing. The whole reason I exited my corporate gig was because I was so interested in bridging that gap, because most of the organizations, including GE, that I've been exposed to that had Six Sigma organizations, and they were trying to apply it to sales and marketing, I found that we were never doing it correctly. Everything was a strategic opportunity, but it was mainly because no one, when you went and interacted with the organizations, wanted to commit to repetition, everything. Well, I don't know. It could be different. What's always the same? So anyway, all that dialogue is super important to get down on paper. What does your process kind of look like? What does it look like that could be repeated so that you could build it into an automation? Looks like your guys will help with that process of translating manual activities into repetitive activities that could be automated. And then not only are we going from sourcing the information, collecting all the information, pushing it into a CRM so teams can interact with it better, but shoot, we've got the automations too. So it can kick off other things. That means that the reps in the organization are the only ones that benefit. All of these other things that you're trying to automate so you can make sure they're done the same way every time can be pulled through the system without jumping into the other application. It's very, very unique, and what I've seen so far, and there's a lot of good benefits there.
Yep. No, you're spot on. So it's the combination of the product is about fusing different technologies together to make the sales rep as efficient as possible, and then kicking off those automation workflows to automate as much of the follow-on tasks, like those drip campaigns, LinkedIn sequences, etc., and from that best of breed solution. And I'm a big fan of that automation approach.
Yeah, I am too. I'm sure we've got people listening because of the fact that, now that the buzzword RevOps is out there, and it's interesting because we always have these terms that come up that all of a sudden make relevant the fundamentals that have always been there. But now I believe that even more people are going to be looking at, how do we go ahead and digitize and automate some of this stuff? And our ability as CROs, COOs, CEOs, founders, or what have you, to understand, at least to that level, which is only 2 inches deep, how do we use automation to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of our organizations is going to be key. There's no longer an IT department that just sits over there doing IT stuff. Now, technical acumen is pretty much a standard as we go forward if we want to be able to compete effectively. So hopefully other people will be on the same wavelength and looking at how they could kind of take advantage of tech more efficiently in their organizations and their revenue organizations. So why don't we, at this point, let's go ahead and highlight specifically then, because you mentioned top of the funnel. There's several KPIs one could look at to make sure that they're getting that ROI on their activities or their purchases related to building out top of the funnel. Which KPIs, when it comes to KnowledgeNet for sales teams, would you say a buyer should look at to know that they're making progress in the right direction with their KnowledgeNet purchase?
Yep. So we're going to be, it's not only just the product, it's the process, right? So what's your top of funnel process today? Are you going to ZoomInfo or even Apollo and getting 1,000 contacts a day and dropping them into an email, sequencing system? And what is, at the end of the day, how many book meetings do you have, right? And I've done that before, and you get, less than a 1% return rate off of that. But it's all about scale, right? And if you can scale, you can get that. So that's a product and a process methodology. Our approach would be leverage our approach, which is leverage your relationships and your process around tapping into those relationships to drive top of funnel. So from a KPI perspective, are you getting 1 or 2 book meetings a week? And then with our process, are you getting 3 to 4 book meetings a week? It's quality over quantity. A ZoomInfo approach would be more of a quantity perspective. And of course, ZoomInfo, I mean, it's a good product. It's a very expensive product. It's a good product, but in our product, because our data is being powered by Apollo, you can do almost the exact same thing. Like you can get down to the company's industry, size of the company, do they fit, whatever. You can get down to your ideal customer profile. But once you get down to your ideal customer profile, now you've got 1,000 contacts. How do you prioritize those 1,000 contacts with the ones that you and your company has relationships with in order to target first? And from there, you're going to get a 2 to 3x return, because now you can prioritize those personal outreaches versus just put them into a standard email sequencing.
Got it. So we got one where one side of the equation is the actual outcomes. Are you converting more? I guess that would be converting more on the touches, right? So I attempted to get in touch with this person. We did finally connect. Now, how are they moving to the next stage of the sales cycle, right? I would imagine then that a part of this also that would be an important KPI is the size of your actual list. So how many companies do you have on your list? How many in your CRM? How many company records do you have that have complete information for the fields your organization values most in your CRM? How many contacts do you have at each of these companies with complete records, the fields that you value most in your CRM? And then we've got the other pieces that would be driving to the outcomes.
Correct. And there's lots of also different ways of using our technology.
Yes.
But and this is, we can go on for a long time, but from a pipeline management perspective, how many times are you in an opportunity, and as a sales manager, you're questioning your sales rep, how deep are your relationships in this account? And how do we grow those relationships, right? And then are you multi-threaded in that account? Are you pursuing more than one people? So how do you surface those connections within that account in order to take it? So there's multiple ways to also, from a KPI perspective, to leverage our technology to grow the health of your pipeline, and to also analyze the health of your pipeline. So there's lots of different caveats to this. But anyway, just from a top of funnel, those KPIs we went over first are great initial KPIs, but just wanted to expose a lot of extra capabilities when you leverage relationship intelligence.
Nice. Actually, yeah, that's a great point. And I've got some good takeaways coming out of this call as I think about it. And I'm not going to burden the audience with all of my insights there. I'm going to thank you for joining. I'm going to thank you for sharing from the standpoint, sharing how folks can use KnowledgeNet to improve their sales operations. And I look forward to having you on to talk about some of those other use cases in the future.
Great. Thanks,
so thanks again, Nick. And thank you all for watching. I hope you found this helpful. If you are interested in and looking for tools to help continue optimizing the effectiveness and efficiency of your sales teams, take a look at KnowledgeNet and check out the link below, so that you can click through and talk to a member of their team if it might make sense for you. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Transform Sales Podcast Sales Software Review Series.